Hello, welcome to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. I was just eating white chocolate. I was at the supermarket buying something for my wife. I was not. I was not eating white chocolate. Please don't tell anyone, you guys. It's just that I went to Smart and Save Final, and there was this thing by the counter right in front of me. It was just right in front of me there, and it had white chocolate on it. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good night. And uh, something I haven't done for a long time. There's two main uh, interviews in Arabic that I really enjoy reviewing, and I think this is the reason that my computer there. Okay, that looks a little bit better, don't it? Okay, yeah. There's two main Arabic interviews that I really like to review. One of them is Hala Surhan. Hala Surhan, these are Arabic interviews. She's like the Oprah Winfrey of the Middle East, of Egypt, and the Arab world. Very famous, and she's known, and she's the one who, when during the Muslim Brotherhood, Obama Brotherhood days, they did a fatwa that women who work with men have to breastfeed them. There was a fatwa that came out. This sheikh made it, and it was in the newspaper in Egypt that women who work with men have to breastfeed them because by breastfeeding them, you become their mothers, and they become your sons by um, fosterage. Okay, there's a nice word. And so, anyway, there was a big interview on Hala Surhan's TV show, and I've done it on here. I've covered it several times. It's in Arabic, and so uh, anyway, that was, and I've done it before, and I'll do it again for sure. It's an amazing interview where she interviews the Mufti who came up with that uh, fatwa. That all women, and it was in the newspaper. And it so said all women who work with men have to breastfeed them so that they become like her sons. They become like their children. And when they're like your children, you can work with them without wearing a hijab, or you're permitted to be in their presence. And so, but then my second favorite and is Basma Wahba. Basma, what she did is she got two of the biggest sheikhs in like Mufti guys in Egypt from Al Azhar, and she asked them about. There had been lots of questions on the internet by young Muslims about the issue of, is slavery, specifically women slavery, Malakat al-Yamin, possessions of your right hand, is that still permitted in Islam? And and so she got two of the biggest sheikhs, and these two sheikhs came in expecting to have a nice little softball interview to win points with Al Azhar University. But this woman, Basma Wahba, who's wearing a hijab, she gave it to them like, I mean, she's like Barbara Walters, and who's that other one? Meredith, what was her name? No, there's this other reporter who's really good. I mean, but Barbara Walters, you know what George Bush Sr. said about Barbara Walters? He says that when she interviews you, what she does is she talks to you and she just slowly gains your trust. And before you know it, she's got her fingers right around your throat. and you can't back out because it's on live television or whatever. So anyway, that's what this Besma does to these two muftis, and it's very enlightening to watch it. And so Anyway, I wanted to just watch it and to go over it. And now, if there's anything else going on that needs to be addressed, you guys can bring it to my Meredith Vieira. That's right. Diane Sawyer. Yeah, it was Diane Sawyer. I can't stand either of them. I think they're liberals, totally product of the liberal media. But Diane Sawyer one time was interviewing Hillary Clinton, and this was before the election, and it was about the situation that happened in Libya. You know, when they blamed it on Father Zechariah, and they blamed, you know, the riots in the Middle East on Father Zechariah, and a movie that was called Innocence of Muslims. It was such a dumb movie, but it was about Islam, and it caused riots all over the Muslim world. And so Hillary Clinton, as a result, there was an attack on um, the American embassy in Libya, and the ambassador, a young guy, he was murdered in that attack. And so the way Hillary Clinton dealt with it is to blame it on the movie. The movie is called Innocence of Muslims. Stupid movie. Very dumb movie, but it was, I mean, stupid in the sense that it was a real cheapo little thing that you guys maybe saw it. It was a huge controversy back then. And they actually ended up blaming Father Zechariah for it. Some Los Angeles news station. And, you know, they doxed Father Zechariah on live television. But anyway, those idiots. So, but Diane Sawyer was interviewing Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton was doing all her usual excuses. Yeah, they blame Father Zechariah, and in fact, I was with Father Zechariah because uh, the ambassador was gay and had no business. Oh, really? I didn't know about that. Yeah. Yeah, I watched the movie. He looked gay in the movie, but I didn't know that he was gay. But anyway, yeah. But the they blamed. Yeah, what happened is that they said that that movie, Innocence of Muslims, Father Zechariah was kind of like behind it, you know. And so anyway, Father Zechariah wanted to make a statement in English about his involvement in that movie, and so I was the translator. So he spoke in Arabic, and I translated it into English. It was a live program. It was only a half hour long, and he made a statement. He said, "Listen, I didn't even know about this movie. I don't know nothing about this movie. I didn't. I had no information about it." And he said, "And this movie has lots of mistakes in it. For instance, this movie says that Muhammad had sex with 61 women. I never said that." Father Zechariah said he had sex with 66 women. Yeah. And so anyway, they blame Father Zechariah, but Father Zechariah, he used it as a platform from which to preach. So anyway, welcome Tiger, welcome Blackwater, welcome Houston Euler, welcome everyone who's here. So anyway, all that to say, I'm not sure exactly what I meant with why I went off that tangent there, but to say about Diane Sawyer, that Diane Sawyer, she was interviewing Hillary Clinton, and when she was talking to her, she said Hillary Clinton was doing all her excuses and all her, because of this and these radical Christians and Islamophobes and all this stuff. And then Diane Sawyer said to Hillary Clinton, she says, "Don't you think maybe people are just kind of waiting for you to apologize?" When she said that to Hillary Clinton, I respected her. I said, "You know what? That was worth the price of admission." And of course, Hillary Clinton hummed her way through that. But anyway, so anyway, guys, I'm just going to play a little bit of this video. Yeah. Hillary also had an interview about the horrible killing of Gaddafi. She cackled after saying, "We came, we saw, he died." Ah, yeah, not too, not too, not too sensitive. Very very Clintonian thing to say, but not a very nice thing to say. Yeah, and I lost my respect for Hillary Clinton, and I'll tell you why. It's abortion related because she was at a Mother Teresa speech. Mother Teresa used to be in India, and Mother Teresa says, "You here in America, I just want to tell you, some of you say you have abortions because you have unwanted children." And but listen to what Mother Teresa said. She says, "I just want to tell you, there's no such thing as an unwanted child. There's no such thing as an unwanted child. And if you guys can't take care of them, send them to me." And Hillary Clinton was in the audience and the biggest abortion proponent in the universe, her and her husband. And she's like, just whistling like she wasn't hearing what Mother Teresa was saying. But anyway, so that's my Hillary Clinton spiel. So anyway, so I just want to go ahead and play parts of this. I'm going to translate. It's in Arabic. If you speak Arabic, you're really blessed because you'll be able to hear this. They talk about Father Zechariah, but the main thing about this video is Malakat al-Yamin, which is the possessions of your right hand. Okay, so there's some funny parts in it. So anyway, we'll go ahead and just watch part of this and then see where things go tonight. Okay. Okay. Yes, I finally got my Arabic keyboard today, so I'm very happy about this. So I can have Arabic and English. Okay, best. Oh, it's right here. Oh, wait a minute. That's my show. Sorry, you guys. Basma. Okay, Basma Wahba. Sheikh Mabruk. Oh, where did it go? Okay. I think this is it right here, you guys. Okay.
كنيسة في نيويورك تحولت إلى مسجد عيسى بن مريم.
It says the church in New York became the mosque of Isa, the son of Mary. They should go see what's happening to the mosques in Iran. They love the freedoms that they have in the warm waters of America freedom. So
لكن قبل أن تفرح كثيرا
before we need your money. We need money. So here, let's see what they're going to bring to New York with their Isa bin Midyam Masjid. Okay, so okay. She's saying the market of women, slaves, and sex slaves. Okay, this was a long time ago from this was the law. So and the women were distributed from every mattress to every hand. She says, and here they would come to the market and they'd buy and they'd say, "Come, here's a blonde, here's a redhead, here's a brunette." Okay, so these are the guys like Muhammad Sahaba. This movie is about Muhammad Sahaba, apparently. And this guy is saying, okay, this one is for me. And he says, this one is for my friend, and this is for my friend Hassan. And then a guy slapped him in the face. And then this other guy slaps him in the face and says, who taught you to distribute women like this? He says, you distribute them to his friend. Okay, so he says, this one is for you for the morning. And this one is for the midday. And this one is between the morning and the afternoon. And this one is for the long nights. And then the leader says, who taught you all this wisdom, my friend? So anyway, she's saying, this is comic, this is funny, but
اللي بياخي الخلق زي صوابع الايد حتى نظام العالم كله اتغير.
And the whole world system has changed.
فلا إذلال ولا إكراه ولا تهديد.
There's no more forcing. There's no more hatred and prejudice like this.
دلوقتي ظهر عالم من الأزهر بيقول لنا رأي تاني جديد.
But now there's a group from Al-Azhar University who give us a new perspective.
بيقول لنا مش حرام لو خدت شغالة بتشتغل عندكم جارية بوضع الإيد.
Says it's not wrong if you have a woman who works in your house or that you work with to take her as a possession of your right hand.
وطبعا كل الرجال قالوا ده يوم العيد.
And of course, all the men said, oh, this is a holiday.
وكل زوجة بعتت شغالتها بعيد.
And every woman, every wife, fired all her female employees.
إحنا قلنا يلا نسأل.
And so what I decided is, let's ask our religious leaders.
سؤال بيفيد ونواجه العلماء والكل يبقى سعيد.
And so let's confront our scholars and everybody will be happy. The question is, what does it mean, Meliket Aymanakum? This is a verse in the Quran that is it's a phrase that's used in the Quran. I believe it's used 16 times in the Quran. And this is about the possessions of your right hand. The possessions of your right hand. And this is asking, what does it mean? What is what's the meaning of the phrase Malakat al-Yamin, the possessions of your right hand? And I'll just tell you, it means a sex slave. That's what it means. But anyway, they're asking that question.
الزوجات او الجواري كان زمان جواري وزوجات الراجل كان يعني المفروض كان متعدد ان الزوجات يبقى كذا زوجه والجواري كمان بتاعته فتبقى ملكه ايمانكم يعني.
And so they're asking women in Egypt, and this one says, oh, it means, like men used to have lots of wives, and then they'd also have lots of slave girls, like maids in their houses, and they would be kind of like their wives.
تقريبا اللي هم الجواري والعبيد اللي كانوا موجودين في عصر سيدنا محمد اللي هم
It says these are the maids or the slave girls that would be in the time of the Prophet Muhammad. She says, and this exists till this day, today.
هو زمان كان في الناس بتتجوز كتير بيعدوا الرابعه لان احنا شرعنا بيعمل لنا اربعه بس كمان كان عندهم جواري.
She's very smart. She says a long time ago, in Islam, well, it's still allowed. She says that men are only allowed to marry 4 women. And so they could, but they also were allowed to have their sex slaves or their possessions of the right hand.
اسرى حروب، اغاروا على ناس وخدوهم. بس احنا دلوقتي بتهيألي ان هو ما فيش دلوقتي، خلاص كل الناس ليها حريات، كل الناس ليها اعتقادات.
But she's saying, but no, they don't have this anymore, because we have freedom now.
لما ملكة ملكهم دي حاجة بتاعت أيام الجاهلية، كان اللي بيملك الجواري وبيملك العبيد. دي كانت هي مملكة ملكهم، لكن في الله أعلم في حاجات تانية أكتر أنا ما أعرفهاش.
Okay, this guy said something interesting. He said, oh, during the time of ignorance, pre-Islamic times, they used to do this where they had the possessions of your right hand. But and then he says, but I don't really know what happened with that.
جري عنده او خدامه عنده او كده يعني، فطبعا بيقشرها زي مقشره الزوجه بالظبط، بس ما بيبقاش متجوزها يعني.
She said, you guys, this is the first time I'm seeing this part of it, and it's real interesting. They're interviewing all these people outside and asking them, what does this mean? That woman right there, she said, it's like, they used to have like maids and slave girls and they would treat them like wives, but of course they wouldn't be married to them. Which is exactly what Muhammad taught.
يعني سمعت ان في ناس كده لغايه دلوقتي بيتجوزوا واحده واثنين وثلاثه واربعه وعندهم جواري برضه، بس اكيد طبعا حرام يعني، دي تعتبر زنا يعني.
But now she's saying, but of course this is forbidden. This is considered fornication. No, it's not.
يعني حرام، اكيد طبعا حرام.
It says it's forbidden. Unfortunately, it's not.
مش معقول يكون لغايه دلوقتي فيه. انا سمعت حاجه عن كلام زي كده، كان في شيخ حاجه قطب كان بيتكلم عن الموضوع ده، الشيخ جمال قطب، وحصل بسبب الموضوع ده مشكله كبيره.
السادة المشاهدين، أهلا بكم معانا في حلقة جديدة من برنامجنا قبل أن تحاسبوا. معنا في حلقتنا اليوم الشيخ جمال قطب رئيس لجنة الفتوى.
He says, okay, we have today with us two of the biggest sheikhs in Egypt.
أسبق بالأزهر.
Al-Azhar University.
الأستاذ الدكتور مبروك عطية، الأستاذ
Mabrouk Atiyah also.
بجامعة الأزهر.
Also Al-Azhar. Two of the big, these are like, the Pope and the Cardinal or something, so. So she's asking them, what is possessions of your right hand?
الحقيقة موضوع الحلقة بتاع النهاردة موضوع بيهاجم الإسلام من خلاله.
Okay, she says, today this subject is something that Islam is being attacked because of this. She says Islam is being attacked around the world because of this subject.
وعامل مشكلة لكل دعاة الإسلام في الغرب.
And it's making problems for all the Muslims in the West as well.
وكل الإرساليات الغربية بتستغل النقطة دي للهجوم على الإسلام.
Says all of the television stations and communications in the West are using this to attack Islam.
والغريب يا جماعة إن بعض العلماء بيقولوا إنه مفيش نص بيحرم هذا الموضوع.
And she says the problem, everybody, is that our scholars are saying there is no verse in the Quran or Hadith that forbid this practice.
إيه هو الموضوع ده؟
What is this subject?
هو موضوع ما ملكت أيمانكم.
It's the subject of possessions of your right hand or sex slaves.
يعني حالة الرق في الإسلام، هل هناك رق في الإسلام؟ ربنا سبحانه وتعالى بيقول إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين.
Okay. Boy, she is bold. Man. She says, is there slavery in Islam? Or, sex slavery? And she says, in the Quran, it only says that men are only allowed to have sex with their wives and those that are their possessions of their right hand. So they are without blame if they are with the possessions of their right hand.
فهل هناك مثل هذه الحالات إلى اليوم؟
So she's asking, she says, so is this a situation that still exists today?
هذا هو السؤال
This is the question.
الذي نتقدم به الآن إلى فضيلة الشيخ العلامة جمال قطب.
So this is the question that we are asking our honorable Sheikh Jamal Qutb, who's, I believe he was a mufti or like the chief sheikh at Al Azhar University.
اتفضل يا مولانا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أريد أن يميز إخواتنا المشاهدين والمشاهدات بين قضية الإسلام بيقول لازم تعملوها وقضية الإسلام بيقول لما تقابلوها تحلوها إزاي.
Okay, now he's boy, he thought he was going to get away with this answer, but what he's saying is he wants to teach everybody who's watching there's two different things in Islam. One are the things that you have to do. And then there's other things that if you see it, how do you fix it?
يعني الإسلام لا يفرض أن يكون في الدنيا رقيق.
He's saying Islam does not force that there be slavery in the world. It doesn't force. It's not like a command, like one of the pillars of Islam.
ولا يحب ذلك.
And it doesn't love it either.
وفتح الأبواب رغم أنف الحضارات من قبلنا لتصفية الرقيق.
And it also opened the door to remove and eliminate all slavery. Don't tell him about how much slavery there is in Mauritania, but anyway, that's another day.
اللي حالف يمين يحرر رقبة، اللي عايز يجي يعمل ثواب يعمل رقبة، فك رقبة. لكن إذا وجد الرقيق رغم أنفنا نسيبه في الشارع.
But if he finds, like I want to get this word exactly right, you guys. If he finds, somebody on the street who's in a situation like this, should he just leave him on the street? Okay, let me see. I'm just curious. He's using a very particular word. It's a word that is not used a lot, but I just want to make sure that I'm translating it correctly. The word is raqiq. Okay, raqiq. You know what it is? Small, raqiq. Well, there's many different ways to there's thinning, superfine, and slave. One of the words is slave. So that's one of the interpretations of the word that he's using. Oh no. Okay, got bad news. Friend of ours became Muslim, who was a Christian, just a friend in the Holy Land. Okay, excuse me, I just want to tell him I'm going to call him. Okay, need to pray about that. Lots of pressure in the Holy Land with the situation in Gaza and everything. And okay, all right. Okay, let's continue this. Oh, Raqiq, okay, means slave. So he's saying, so if I see a slave out in the street, what? I just leave him on the street?
يضل ويضيع ويعمل
To get lost and to just be totally desperate on the street
فضايح لنفسه ولغيره
and make disgraces and embarrassment to others and to himself,
ويضيع نفسه ضيع جامد.
to just lose himself.
إذا وجد، هل أنت بقى عايزة تسألي حضرتك سؤال ينفع إخواتنا اللي بيدعوا في الغرب؟ هل من حق المسلم يجيب واحد ولا يشتري واحدة بفلوسها ولا أنت مالك؟ لا.
What you're saying, okay, he's trying to explain. If somebody brings a girl and I want to buy her with money, is that allowed? No.
لكن إذا وجد رغم أنفنا.
But if it exists in front of our noses,
ماذا نفعل معه؟
what shall we do?
إذا واحدة فقدت الأهل
If a girl lost her family and everything and everybody,
والعائل وأصبحت بلا مصدر تعيش
هو
and she has no source of income,
اي واحده تفقد اهلها تبقى رق.
and then Basma's asking him, so are you saying that any girl that loses her family, she becomes a slave?
لا أنا ما بقولش فكرة الرق.
No, I'm not talking about slavery.
يعني حينما أراد الإسلام يقول إذا وجدت من يحتاج إلى الرحمة والسكن لأنها بعيدة عن أهلها لا
He's explaining it now. He says, if you find a woman who's far away from her home, who lost her family and needs someplace to live,
تعرف لهم مصدر بعيد
give them someplace, and they're far away from any resources,
عن مصادرهم فأويها.
then strengthen her.
هذا ما ملكت الأيمان، لكن الإسلام لا يفرض إن رجالته يفضلوا يشتروا ناس.
But Islam does not force people to buy slaves.
ولا يعتبر ناس رقيق.
And it doesn't consider people slaves.
ولا يبتذل كرامة المرأة.
نقويها فين؟
في بيتنا.
Okay, and then Basma asks him, so, okay, you find her on the street. Where do you keep her? He says, in our house, in our home.
يعني بيت مين تقصد؟ بيت مين؟
And then Basma asks him, whose house? Whose house are you talking about?
بيت من يعثر عليها، إما الدولة أي دولة، إما
يعني
جمعية.
الرجالة تمشي تدور في الشوارع لو لقوا واحدة ياخدوها.
And she's asking now, she's saying, so if some guy sees a girl in the street, okay, she's out on the street, he should just take her?
قلنا حضرتك ألا تسمعي عن أبناء الشوارع؟
And he's asking her, don't you know about the children who live on the street?
ألا تسمعي عن فاقد الوالدين؟
Don't you hear about the parents who aren't able to take care of their children?
ألا تسمعي عمن يهاجر من بلاده إلى بلاد أخرى؟
Haven't you heard about refugees who leave their country and come to another country?
هجرة غير شرعية وما معهوش لا باسبور.
Maybe they're illegal aliens and they don't have passports
ولا هوية ولا إذن.
or any identification.
هل هؤلاء الناس بيصبحوا؟
مفيش بيوت رحمة في الإسلام. في بيت المال تقوي دول.
إذا وجد.
It says if there's no houses of mercy in Islam, then what do you do with them?
يبقى على العين والراس. إذا لم يوجد تقوم الجمعيات الخيرية.
It says if they don't have them, then maybe the non-governmental organizations like the Red Cross or something.
اللي بيسموها جمعيات المجتمع المدني. إذا لم يوجد
نظام يا مولانا يا مولانا نظام.
Okay, and if those don't exist, then a Muslim has to do his part. Okay, and she's going, Sir, scholar, Your Honor.
نظام الإسلام بيعهد بهذه الأمور للأفراد ولا الولي الأمر.
She's asking now, does Islam foist this responsibility upon individuals or upon the state?
التكليف الشرعي دائما للأمة مشخصة في الدولة مش في ولي الأمر فقط.
يعني لو الواحد دلوقتي ماشي في الشارع.
And she goes, so if somebody's walking in the street,
في بلد ما فيهاش ولي أمر,
there's no charitable organization.
الأمور دي ولا جمعيات خيرية. وبعدين بنت قالت له أنا ماليش أهل وأنا مقطوعة من شجرة.
And the girl tells him, I don't have a family. I'm cut off from the tree, from my relatives.
يتوكل على الله وياخدها على البيت.
Should he just trust Allah and take her to his house? He said yes. And she goes, this is normal? Is this normal? She's saying this is devastating. She says this is devastating what you're saying. And now this guy wants to come to the rescue.
يعني ما تبقاش ملك يمين. يعني هو انا لاقي واحد في الشارع
لا اهل له
طب
اضمه
لحظه يا دكتور
وارعاه
مبروك،
يبقى ده ملك
الشيخ
يمين. لا
كمان.
الشيخ ما يقصدش كده.
لحظه يا دكتور
الشيخ
مبروك.
يقصد التطهير
So he's trying to interfere, but she's saying, please excuse me a second, Dr. Mabruk.
يعني مش هبقى ملك يمين يا دكتور يا شيخ
يعني
كمان؟
ايه؟
And then she asks the sheikh, she says, is this possession of your right hand? Is this what is meant by possession of the right hand? You find girls out on the street and you take them home?
يعني تقصدي ايه بملك يمين؟
And then he asks her, what do you mean by that word? He's asking her now, what do you mean by that word? He's the mufti, he's the pope, okay? And he's asking her, what do you mean by that phrase, possession of your right hand?
يعني عاشرها
أنا اللي
معاشرة
بسأل
الازواج؟
حضرتك.
لا
انا اللي بسأل حضرتك.
لا حضرتك
He said, I'm asking you. I brought you here to ask you.
امال
دي
اسمها
ضالة
ايه؟
دي ضالة، وإذا تركها في الشارع قد تصيب نفسها وتصيب المجتمع بالضرر، فإذا لم
يعني
تكن
يعمل بيها ايه في البيت؟
Okay. He says that this becomes a problem for all of society. She's out on the street by herself. And then Basma asks him, and what does he do with her once he gets her into his house? What does he do with her once he gets her into his house?
تضيفها. ده أنا حضرتك
بس
أيوه
Yeah, he takes care of her. Basma says, is that all?
ما
يستضيفها.
يقربش منها يعني.
لا
Yastadifha. He hosts her. He's a host. He's hosting her in her house, his house.
يا ربنا هلال.
طب احنا بنتكلم على ملك اليمين.
Okay, she says, okay, now we're talking about possessions of the right hand.
مين ملك اليمين يا
Who are these possessions of the right hand? Who are these girls that there's 16 verses in the Quran about them? That you can do anything, they have no rights whatsoever.
مولانا؟
ملك اليمين قضية تاريخية وممكن أن تبقى سارية اليوم الدين.
He says, the possessions of your right hand is a historical situation that maybe exists today.
خد حضرتك.
زي ايه بقى؟
And she says, like what?
السؤال ده مصدر لينا من بره مع احترامي لكل المقصود بيه ان نقول لا.
Okay, see this guy. Look at his smile. He's expecting a great depth of wisdom in this answer that he's going to be giving.
داخل الزمن لا.
Some people say the time for this no longer exists. No, meaning it does exist.
لما تيجي جيوش زي اللي اعتدت على العراق او اللي اعتدت على لبنان ووقع
يعني امريكيات.
انا مش خايف اقول امريكا.
Okay, and now he's explaining how you get these girls. Okay, he says when like a foreign army attacks you, like American army attacks you, and then they come and they fall into your captivity, and then you capture them. And then Basma says, you mean Americans? And he says, I'm not afraid to say Americans. So
إذا جاء جيش للعدو واحتل بلد.
if a enemy army came and occupied my country,
أو بيحارب ووقعوا أسرى.
or they're fighting me,
انت فتحت باب الجهاد من جديد يا
يصبح
مولانا.
الرجال والنساء
and he says we're talking about men and women.
مأسورين عندنا ملك يمين يتحط.
They are prisoners with us, and then you get into the right hand, possession of the right hand.
حافظ عليهم.
ازاي القرآن بيقول انها بتعامل زي الزوج؟
Okay, and now she's asking a devastating question. She's asking, how is it that the Quran says you can treat these women like your wife? In other words, you can have sex with them.
دي بقى حضرتك مرحلة تانية. لما
He says, now we're talking about a different subject.
يتم أسرها إذا وقعت أسيرة.
If this woman became a prisoner and her time in prison ended,
قائد الجيش بياخدها زي
then the army leader takes her. We're talking about the American soldier here. Okay.
رسول الله عليه السلام مكان قائد. يروح واخد الأسرى كلهم. إذا شاء أن يعتقهم ويبادل بهم أسرى، إذا شاء أن هم فقدوا الأهل وقالوا احنا أكرهنا على هذه الحرب ووجدوا في هذه الدولة متنفس،
لا لا
يعهد.
Okay, he says, if these women they lost their family, they don't have anything, or if they said they end up hating their own country and saying we don't like this war, we don't like what this has done, and we really like the country that we're in right now. And so he's trying to really change the subject, but she's going back and she's saying no, no. And let's listen to what she's going to ask here.
شيخ جمال يعني
تسأليني وتجاوبي.
حكايه المرحله الثانيه دي انا بناقش حضرتك ويا ريت يعني يتسع لك صدري يتسع صدرك ليا يعني.
Okay, she's says Dr. Jamal, she says, I'm talking to you respectfully and I respect you, and I'm really trying to open the subject. I'm really trying to get an answer.
اصل حضرتك قلت مرحله ثانيه، الايه ما فيهاش مرحله ثانيه ولا اولى، فدلوقتي لو واحد خد واحده من دول وعاملها زي مراته بالظبط نقول له ايه؟
Okay, she says there's no other situation. Remember when he says, oh, this is another situation? She said, this is not another situation. Let's go. She says, if somebody sees one of these women, and regardless whether the one on the street or prisoner of war, whatever, and he takes her into his house, and he decides that he's going to take her, what happens?
ما يحللوش ان يمد ايده مش على الست او الراجل ولا البندقيه ولا الطلقه الفارغه. ما حدش يقدر يغل. يعني ايه يغل؟ يعني ياخد حاجه من الغنائم والاسرى والسبي.
He's saying nobody's allowed to cheat. When there's a war, you cannot go and steal the spoils, whether it's possessions or it's money or it's people.
الا بامر الامام.
This is all by the command of Allah.
هو في النار صلى الله عليه وسلم. اقول لحضرتك عشان بس الناس تتابع النقاش ده وتبقى عارفه ان الاسلام ما فيهوش قله ادميه.
One thing you need to understand, Islam does not have any of this lack of morality.
النبي قال ايه؟
What did the Prophet say?
مرحله من مراحل قال من قتل قتيلا وهو بيحارب قريش فله سلب.
حضرتك ظهرت في احد البرامج الفضائيه.
Okay, she's going. Okay, guys, this is Barbara Walters going for the jugular. Okay, she's now playing the part of Barbara Walters with George Bush, where she's getting his jugular right now. Okay, he was trying to run off on some other subject and present some airy hadith to try to change the subject, but she is going for the jugular right now. Okay, and this was really the cause of this interview. Okay, he was on a TV show. It was I believe it was his TV show on some satellite station where let me just translate what he says.
وقلت يا جماعة اللي عنده شغالة في البيت مش مسيحية أو يهودية أيوة له الحق أن يتعامل معها ملك يمين.
Okay, she says to him, you guys, if you forget everything about this interview, don't forget this. This right here. This is the reason for this interview. She said to him, she said, you guys, this is like, it's like somebody talking to the Pope. This guy's like the Pope in Egypt, okay? And so she's saying to him, she said, on TV, you said, okay, she's saying this to him, on TV, you said that if you have a maid or a woman that works in your house, okay, and she's not Jewish or Christian, that you can treat her like your wife.
الكلام ده حضرتك احنا سمعناه كلنا.
She said, we all heard you say this.
لا إذا كنت أولا.
He said no.
مع احترامي وتوقيري لك إذا كان في تسجيل بهذا اللفظ أنا رجل مخطئ مش عيب إن أنا أرجع في لو كنت لكن هذا لم أقوله.
He says, if this is recorded and I said this, I made a mistake. I did not say this.
طب اقول لك تحديدا
بس اسمعي
مع
كلامي
جمال
لما أخلص.
عناية
هقول
في
لي
قناة الصفوة.
لما اخلص
She told him the name of the channel where he said it.
تحب اقول لك
انا
التاريخ كمان؟
And she said, do you want me to tell you the date you said it to? Oh, man.
قابلت الدعوه
جمال.
انا قابلت الدعوه الحلقه دي ومحتمل انها تصار بهذه القضيه.
ايوه.
Okay. He said, you know what? I accepted the invitation to come to this interview. Bless you, babe. And
خد بال حضرتك هذا الامر لم يصدر من فمي لا من قريب ولا من بعيد.
he says, these words did not come out of my mouth, not from close, not from far away. She's got the recording. She's got the date, the time, and everything. And even when you watch the introduction, remember the introduction? One of the girls that was interviewed, she said that she saw him talk about it.
بل على العكس جمال عناية الاستاذ اللي هو المذيع والزميله اللي قاعده وغيرهم بيقولوا ايه؟ بيقولوا يعني اي واحد يجيب اي واحده شغاله ويتجوزها. قلت لهم حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. ده كلام في التسجيل. لازم الناس
طب
تبقى
ايه
عارفه
الصح طيب؟
الصح.
And then she's asking him, okay, what is right? What is the right thing?
حضرتك الشغاله دي جايه بعقد عمل لها كرامتها.
He says, this woman that's working at your house, she has her honor. She's working with you with the contract.
ولها إذا شئت أن أتزوجها الأول بيني وبينها مليون حائل.
He says, if I wanted to marry her, between me and her, there's a million barriers.
لقوله تعالى ولا أمة مؤمنة خير من مشركة ولو أعجب. قدام المسلمين والمسيحيين واليهود إذا رغبوا مش هخطفهم بره لكن ما يعرفش أتجوز واحدة ليس لها دين سماوي. أدي حاجة. القضية بقى اتعرف.
And he's talking about in the heavenly religions, this type of a thing isn't permitted.
فرت ليه؟ والكلام اتكتر فيها ليه؟ وبعض البرامج الأخرى قطعت الكلام وركبته.
He says, what happened, some of these programs, is that they edited it and they cut my words and then they put it together to make it sound like I said that.
ليه؟
Why?
لأن أنا قلت اللفظ بتاع أمريكا. ما قلت لما أمريكا تعتدي كل الجيش اللي يقع عندنا.
Because I was talking about America. When America attacks us, all of the army comes and attacks us.
إما أن يقتل لأنه بقى يقاتل واللي يتمسك أسير هيبقى من مملكة الأيمان.
And I said that when the soldiers they get caught and get killed, they get killed. And the ones that get captured, they could be possessions of the right hand.
فحكاية الحماية اللي عايزة تعطى للقوى المعتدية هي اللي خلتهم يقلبوا الفتوى.
Because of that, they flipped it on its head. He's talking about the TV station.
ويقولوني ما لم أقل.
And say that I said things that I didn't say.
طيب قبل ما نتكلم في الفتوى دي لو سمحت لي احنا
Okay, she says, before we talk about this fatwa,
محتاجين دراسة لغوية شوية.
he says we need some language instruction. We need some language instruction.
هنستفيد بقى من الدكتور مبروك.
We're going to benefit from Dr. Mabruk. Now this guy's been sitting here chomping at the bit, waiting to participate.
معانا ويفهمنا ايه بقى ما ملكت ايمانكم.
We want you to define for us what is the possession of the right hand.
وحالة الرق
Situation of sex slaves.
يبقى في ملكة ايمانكم ولا ما فيش.
Is there possession of the right hand or does it no longer exist?
يعني لف بينا كده يا دكتور مبروك حوالين الموضوع.
Because we still have a lot of cloudiness, unclarity about it.
كلمة ملك اليمين الكوباية دي ملك يمين.
Okay, and this sheikh right here, he says, you're asking me what is the possession of my right hand? This cup that I'm drinking from, this cup that I'm drinking from, that's a possession of my right hand.
وكرسي ملك يمين.
The chair that I'm sitting on is the possession of my right hand.
كل ما يملك هو ملك يمين ده في.
Everything I own is a possession of my right hand.
الأصل اللغوي.
This is from the original language.
وعبر باليمين لأن اليمين أقوى من الشمال.
And why does it say right hand? Because the right hand is stronger than the left hand. Because the right hand is stronger than the left hand.
وإذا يقول لك يداه سبحانه وتعالى كلتاهما يمين، فاليمين مقدمة على الشمال، ده الأصل.
So in religion and everything, the right hand is higher than the left hand.
اللغوي إني قال لي
In language,
حاجة بتملكيها بيتك ده ملك يمينك،
if you own your house, that's a possession of your right hand.
حتى ده ملك يميني، ملك يميني يعني في
This is the possession of my right hand.
إيديا كده، ماشي. لماذا لا يطلق هذا اللفظ على الزوجة؟
Okay, why don't you call your wife a possession of the right hand? That's what he's going to explain now.
وده برضه حاجة إحنا محتاجين لها في الإشعاعات الاجتماعية الخطيرة اللي إحنا عايشينها، إن الزوجة ليست ملك يمين مثل التي تؤتى وتقول له إن تقبلوا نعانق ونفرش النمارق أو تدبروا نفارق فراق غير وانق. هي بس الحكاية.
Okay, she's laughing at him. He's doing some Arabic poetry, and I don't really understand it, you guys. It's a little bit. He's trying to be kind of clowning around, saying about your love for your wife and stuff like that, and she's laughing at him because anyway.
يعني في صفحة غايبة، الصفحة الغايبة دي خطيرة جدا.
He says there's a missing page. There's a missing page, and it's a very devastating missing page.
الناس بص على الدين على إنه هو مثلا حتة بسكوت، وإن معنى الإنسانية والرفعة والكلمات الكبيرة دي هي اللي عندنا باب اسمه الجهاد، ده مقفول بالضبة والمفتاح. لكن
Okay, and we have some subjects like the subject of jihad, holy war, and hey, slavery and rape by married. Oh, thank you very much. We got some other materials about that. Thank you very much for sending that. So. Okay, she's asking. So, are you saying that possession of the right hands, these sex slaves, is that something that still exists today? He said, of course it does. It's going to exist until the day of resurrection. It says this verse of the Quran will not be abrogated until the day of judgment.
صور وجودها دلوقتي؟
ما فيش صور ملهاش، هو صور وجودها احنا ملك اليمين دلوقتي. حاول ماريا القبطيه دي كانت ايه؟
ايمانكم دي موجوده دلوقتي؟
طبعا هتفضل ليوم القيامه، وجاهدوا في الله حق جهاده، مش هتتنسخ يوم القيامه.
ايه صور وجودها دلوقتي؟
ما فيش صور.
She asked, what exactly exists today?
ملهاش، هو صور وجودها احنا ملك اليمين دلوقتي. حاول ماريا القبطيه دي كانت ايه؟
And then he goes, what about Maria the Copt? What about Maria the Copt? What was she? What was she? I don't know if he's trying to help his case. He's like, what do you think of Maria the Copt? What was she?
اللي خلفت ابراهيم من سيدنا النبي عليه الصلاه والسلام.
The one who Muhammad had sex with on Hafsa's bed, and she got pregnant and bore Ibrahim.
مش اهداها المقوقس.
Didn't Mukokas, this was the king of Egypt, give her to Muhammad?
What
do we do? Are we supposed to try to erase it with a plastic eraser and say it doesn't exist? Maria the Copt came riding on a horse. And then, dude, Basma asks him, she says, wasn't she one of the wives of the prophet?
اعتقها ولدها، ودي احدى الوسائل اللي كلم عليها الشيخ في تحرير يا اما يخلف منها الراجل، يا اما يمن عليها ويقول لها انت حره، يا اما ان فيها اعتبارات كتيره جدا.
هل النبي
Okay, and then he says, that if he has a woman, he can, have children by her, or he can take care of her, or he has to set her free. And now she's going to ask a question. You guys, I mean, to find someone this bold to ask these questions of men of this caliber is really an amazing thing. So
عليه الصلاة
عليه الصلاة
والسلام خلف منها وهي مراته حرة ولا خلف منها وهي جارية؟
الحديث على الشمال في الاستيعاب لابن عبد البر قالوا له يا رسول الله ماريا، قال اعتقها ولدها، يعني صارت حرة وبقت من امهات المؤمنين. دي مسألة خلافية معروفة جدا.
بس
Okay, she asked him, she says, so did Maria the cop, did he have sex with Maria the cop when he married her? I mean, did he marry her? Or was she a slave and he had sex with her while she was a slave? And then he says, well, he set her free, which doesn't really answer the question, but.
يبقى احنا هنا قدام قضية خطيرة جدا.
And then she says, dude, we have a very devastating situation here that you just brought up.
ان الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام اقترب منها زي ما بيقترب من زوجته وهي جارية.
You're saying that our prophet, peace be upon him, got close to her the way he gets close to his wife. In other words, he had sex with her while she was a slave.
حصل ولا ما حصلش؟
Did it happen or not? And he says it happened and a half.
سؤال
هقول لك بس عبد الله بن
يبقى
رواحه
ازاي بقى النبي ما يعتقش والصحابه يعتقوا؟
واعتق يا فندم، والدنيا كلها هي لما جت كده، جت هديه، جت سبيه، جت ملكيه.
He said she came as a present. She was a present to him. She was a gift.
جميل.
طب النبي بيحرر
وحررها
الصحابه بيحرروا.
وهقول لحضرتك
ازاي بقى النبي ما حررهاش؟
لو لم يعتق.
And she says, well, then how come the prophet didn't set her free? This doesn't go into, you know.
بصراحة أنا مش مقتنعة بالكلام.
And then she said to him, she said to him, you know, if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not believing what you're saying. She says, I'm not convinced by what you're saying. So.
لازم تفهم.
لو لم يعتقها ولدها كنظام وكفقه إسلامي لأعتقها النبي برحمته.
كانت فضلت جارية.
ولا حتى انت عارف حضرتك الأمثلة كلها.
ما أنت اللي بتقول.
من فضلك.
He says.
أقول لك على حاجة، غياب المنهج غلط جدا. المنهج التاريخي واحنا بنتكلم كده. النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام اتجوز 11 واحدة. اللي مش عاجبه.
Okay, he says, okay, if we look at things historically, the prophet was married to 11 women. Okay, and then he says, if you're not happy about it, then stick it up your nose. That's what he says.
مش هقول له دماغك والحيط، لا هقول له.
He says, don't hit your. I'm not going to tell you to go beat your head on the wall. He says, this is it. This is our religion, okay?
واستريح وخد حمام وكل حاجة.
He says, just calm down, take a breath, and go take a bath, okay?
واعرف واحنا ما بندافعش على دين من اخطائنا الشائعه، نحن نقعد نقول اتجوز الارمله اللي يعطف عليها ونعمل كأن احنا بنلتمس له الاعذار. لا، ربنا قال له ان احلمنا لك ازواج.
اعتبر نفسك بتكلم ناس عاوزه تتعرف.
Okay, and then she says, Ustaz Mabruk. And you guys, this is like a cardinal. This guy's a huge, big deal on television. I mean, he's like almost to the caliber of a Billy Graham or someone, you know, in terms of like from the Christian, I mean, in terms of his respectability there in Egypt. And she saying to him, she says, please, doctor, act like you're talking to people who want to learn about their religion. Don't talk to us like tell us to go beat our head on the wall. Because he saw what he did. He says, you know, the prophet married 11. If you don't like it, go beat your head on the wall. Who cares? She's saying, please pretend like you're talking to people that just want to understand their religion. He says, without all of this, mockery.
لو أنا بكلم ناس عايزة تتعرف على الإسلام، لو أقول لهم موضوع اللي نعيش معاه ليل ونهار، لماذا أسلم الصحابة؟
الغربيين النهارده والاعلام مفتوح على بعضه بيهاجموا ولادنا وبيحاولوا ان هم يخرجوهم من الدين.
She said, you guys, she said something there. She says, listen, Sheikh. She says the media is attacking our children, our Muslim children, and they're trying to get them to leave Islam.
احنا نحمي الدين ازاي؟
how do we protect this religion?
ان احنا
هو
نبينه
ده
على
السؤال.
حقيقته.
This is the question.
وصل لهم دين مخصوص.
لا يمكن. اللهم يا رب ما يتوفانا لو ده
يا شيخ
لو ده
جمال،
لا.
بدل ما حضرتك تقول كده بعد إذن حضرتك.
Okay, now the mufti or the pope guy, he said some snide remark. Okay, he said some snide remark, and that's why he's laughing. And she's saying, Professor Sheikh Jamal, rather than making a mockery of the situation, you know,
إحنا نفسنا تقوموا بدوركم علشان
she says, I want you to take your responsibility
توضحوا المفاهيم العصرية
and help us to understand the concepts of our religion
وما ملكت أيمانكم.
about the possessions of the right hand.
فاضلة لازم حضرتك بعتذر للاستاذ الدكتور ممدوح.
Okay, so he's gonna interfere. I mean, say something now.
حضرتك بتأدي دورك في هذا البرنامج.
He's saying to her, he's saying, you are fulfilling your responsibility with this program.
الإعلام كله بصفة عامة، الإعلام الدولي أنا مش بتجنى عليه.
Okay, all of the media, that doesn't affect me.
له استراتيجية ضد الأخلاق الرفيعة وضد الإسلام.
All of the media has an agenda that is anti-Islamic.
الإعلام بيديره على مستوى العالم له
Worldwide,
خطير جدا.
it's very devastating.
وإذا أتيح لبرنامج واعد ولقناة محترمة زي اللي حضرتك اللي في الدور.
And if I come to a respectable program like your program in this respectable channel,
لازم يطلع لها 500 قناة تعفر عليها.
if I look good on one, or if I, one of them is good, there's 500 rotten ones.
يقتطع الكلام ويضيفه.
They edit the words like they want. Okay, so this gets funnier, you guys, as we go on. Let's see how long we've been on for. An hour already. Shoot, I don't know if I should. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll just keep on going. Yeah, maybe we'll just keep on going, and it gets really interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably because of the Arabic. I'm not sure if we've lost a lot of people here because of that. But I really think it's an important interview, and so I'll try to maybe fast forward on certain parts, but yeah, I think that you'll really benefit from watching this. And just the fact that this happened in the Muslim world, this was a huge interview. It was almost like I said, like Oprah or 2020 or something like that. And these guys, it's like getting the Pope and getting, her hands around his neck. So anyway, we'll go ahead and continue this.
لو افترضنا احنا حضرتك مطلع على النظام العالمي دلوقتي، في دول بترفض التقيد لقوانين الامم المتحده.
ايوه.
لو دوله سين،
ايوه،
الدوله دي رفضت الاعتراف بتحريم الرقه عالميا، وحضرتك سافرت فيها.
ايوه.
واتعرضت عليك ما ملكت ايمانكم، هل ستقبلها ام لن تقبلها؟
Okay, she's asking him. She says, okay, now let's say that the United Nations finds a country that, like China, say China said, you know what, we want to allow sex slavery. Okay, if China decided, and the United Nations was asking religious leaders around the world what to do about this, and you have this teaching about the possessions of your right hand, what are you going to say to the United Nations?
لا، إذا كانت الدولة خارجة على قانون الأمم المتحدة بصفة عامة مش في القضية دي بس، ده يبقى لها وضع. لكن أنا بقى أنت عايزة تسأليني لو أنا رحت تايلاند، مش كده؟ لو أنا كشيخ
اي دوله
رحت أي دولة
She says it doesn't matter which country, you know.
في ممن ليس لهم دين سماوي، هل أعاشر السيدات معاشرة الأزواج على أنهم ملك يمين؟ هذا أمر غير وارد، لأن المسلم ما خلقش
لو
يتطور.
سمح ولي الامر ده
اللي هناك
وقال لك دي ملكه
ما أنا ما
ايمانكم،
سمحتش إن
Okay, and she said, but what about when you consider this? He's saying how you have to obey the laws and obey the laws of the land and all this stuff. And then she says, well, but what about in light of the possessions of the right hand? The fact that this is in the Quran and it's permitted there, how would you be able to oppose it?
أنا مش عايز، أنا عايز زوجة شرعية.
Says, no, I want to do something that is legal.
كل
لو
المسلم
افترضنا واحد غيرك ورايح طلبا لهذا الامر وولي الامر هناك سمح له بده،
سمح له
يقبل
سمح له بإيه؟
ولا لا
سمح له
يقبل؟
بإيه؟ بإنه يعاشرها معاشرة
سمح له بانه
الأزواج
يعاشرها معاشره
خاصة
الازواج.
بيه هو وبموافقتها وموافقة أهلها
اه
يتزوجها ويعتبرها زوجة.
Okay, she's saying, so if a guy went, over there to that country and he wanted to take one of these sex slaves, and he's saying, well, it fits into the, our beliefs and everything. And would that be, would you allow that? And he says, well, if he wants to do that, well, then he could just marry her, and I think that, maybe temporary marriages might fit into that. So we can say something big.
وقال صلى الله
لا
عليه
هو
وسلم
مش عايز يتزوجها،
أمال عايزة تفضل ملك
And she says, no, he doesn't want to marry her.
هو
يمين.
عاوز ما ملكت ايمانكم.
He wants possession of the right hand. He doesn't want a wife. He wants a possession of the right hand. He wants a sex slave.
اللي انت بتقول انها موجوده لغايه دلوقتي.
And you said that exists today.
وطبعا
يا شيخ
I said, yeah, of course.
جمال، حضرتك كنت رئيس لجنه الفتوى.
أيوة.
كنت
He says, you're the president of the Islamic Council.
بتفتي الناس بالشرع
You make fatwas.
ولا بالواقع؟
الشرع.
يعني لو جالك واحد قال انا اشتريت واحده ما ملكت
أقول له
ايمانكم،
حرامين اللي
بتقول له
معايا.
العقد صحيح ولا غير
أقول له
صحيح؟
اشتريت.
And if a guy came to you and said, I bought a woman under this provision of possessions of the right hand, what are you going to do?
منين؟
مش مهم،
هو إيه
مش
اللي
عايز يقول لك.
هو ده كلام؟ يعني حد يجيب لي حاجة بنجيب الدكتور يقول اشتريتها وهو سرقها؟ هو في حد بيبيع؟
العقد صحيح ولا غير
أقول له
صحيح؟
اشتريتها منين؟
Okay, guys, please. This is worth listening to. Listen to what he says here. She says, a guy comes to you and he says, look, I bought this woman as a sex slave. And what are you going to say to him? And what does the sheikh say? The sheikh says, I'm going to ask him, where did you buy her from?
I don't want to.
and then Basma says to him, she says, who cares where he bought her from?
مش مهم،
هو إيه
Doesn't matter.
مش عايز يقول لك.
هو ده كلام؟
And then she says sarcastically, says, he doesn't want to tell you where he bought her.
يعني حد يجيب لي حاجة بنجيب الدكتور يقول اشتريتها وهو سرقها؟ هو في حد
مش
بيبيع؟
انت بتقول
هو في سوق بيع دلوقتي؟
Dude, this is pathetic, man. And then she's saying, aren't you the one that said,
جمال، مش انت بتقول انه الشرع دلوقتي ما زال فيما ملكت ايمانكم؟
she's saying to him, didn't you say, Sheikh Jamal, that the system of possessions of the right hand still exists?
لو واحد قال لك انا اشتريت بقره،
أنا هأثر
Okay, if somebody told you I bought a cow,
عليك.
بتقول له اشتريتها منين؟
are you going to ask him, where did you buy it?
أنا هأثر عليك.
احنا مالنا؟ انت
What's the matter with us?
بتقول يجوز او لا
اللي
يجوز.
بتقوليه ده غلط. واحد يقول اشتريت
طب ايه
جارية
الصح؟
جبتها منين؟ الصح
He's saying it's wrong. She says, okay, but what is right?
ربنا بيقول إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين. إذا وجد ما ملكت الأيمان بشروطه بقانونه بوقته لا يمنع المسلم من تعاطيه.
Okay, he's saying the Quran says that if a man has his wives and those that his right hand possesses, and if he has, these sex slaves the right hand possesses,
لكن هل الاسلام
it's allowed. But
يفرض على المجاهدين وعلى المسلمين وعلى المشايخ وعلى الازهر يفتح الصبح يقول فين ملكة الامان؟ انت
لا احنا
and she said, and he says, but does Islam force a man, say you must have possessions of your right hand and sex slaves? He says, no, Islam doesn't force you to do this. And she's saying, no.
ما قلناش بيفرض.
She said, I didn't say nothing about force.
قال بيفرض يا جماعة.
موجود ولا مش
قلنا
موجود؟
بيسمح.
She says, does it allow possessions of the right hand? That's what she's saying. Says, I said nothing about force. I said, does Islam allow this?
بيسمح. دلالات الألفاظ مهمة.
يعني ايه
Because the words are very important. I'm not talking about force. I'm talking about permission. Does Islam permit this?
قلنا
برضه
بيسمح.
تقصدي ايه؟ اذا
يعني
وجد
يجيز.
اقول لحضرتك
يعني يوافق.
اضرب لك
يعني
مثل
يقر.
Meaning it's available.
يعني يسمح.
يا ستي خليكي
Does it allow it?
معايا بقى في مثل اشد وضوح من كده. الاسلام بيقول اللي يسرق ربع دينار ذهب او مقدار كذا من المال يقطع ايده.
He says, listen. There's something even more devastating. If a man steals like a quarter ounce of gold, Islam says his hand must be cut off.
كويس كده؟
Is that good?
لو واحد النهارده البلد الحمد لله يا رب ما فيهاش ولا حرام اقول فل
It says, in the country, thank God, there's not one thief.
واحد قطع ايده.
Does somebody do you have to cut somebody's hand off if there's no thieves in the country? I don't know what he's talking about.
أنا لو قاعدة دلوقتي يا لا سمح الله يعني مفتي وواحد سألني أقول له شرعا يجوز وواقعا لا يجوز. ينفع الكلام ده؟
انا قلت الكلام.
Okay, she says something here, it's a little bit hard, but let me go ahead and say it anyway. She says, if somebody asks me, if I'm a mufti, she's saying, if I was a mufti, okay, and I'm sitting here and somebody asks me, and I could tell them, well, something is permitted in Islamic law, but it's not permitted in reality. Is this an answer?
أنا بقول أنا
Talking about myself.
بترجمه يعني جاي شرعا المنطوق انا مش جايز الحكم موجود غير منسوخ. الحكم مش زي الصلاه حضرتك لازم الناس تفهم كده.
He says people need to understand this isn't like you're forced to do it, like prayer, like you have to pray.
اقيموا الصلاه لازم تصلي.
You have to pray.
ربنا ما قالش اتخذوا ما ملكت ايمان.
Allah does not command you to take sex slaves.
يقول لو لقيتوهم
ماشي يا شيخ كمال.
He's saying, dude, I get you. I know what you're saying.
الشرع يسمح يمرر الموضوع ده ولا ما يمرروش؟ يمنعه ولا ما يمنعوش؟
Is this forbidden or is it not forbidden?
يا جماعة سؤال بسيط مش عارفين.
It's a simple question.
لا ده سؤال ولا فتوى. ده مصيده معموله للشرع الاسلامي.
لا
وايه اللي يسمح وما يسمحش؟
الاسلام فوق راسنا من فوق.
امال ايه بقى؟
احنا بنقول دلوقتي
عايزين تفصلوا الاسلام على قد امريكا؟
ازاي بقى يا شيخ جمال؟
ما تفهمونا المطلوب ايه؟
انا نفسي سوء الظن مش من خصال العلم على فكره يعني.
انا بتكلم من وراك كده.
They're just kind of going back and forth, just kind of not really dealing with the subject right now, but
سوء ظن يا شيخ جمال.
المطلوب ايه؟
طيب ما هو سوء ظن برضه.
لا ابدا انا بكلم حضرتك.
احنا عاوزين نسال سؤال.
he says we want to ask a question.
كوفي عنان منع الرق.
Okay, there is somebody, an expert,
والاسلام لم يمنع الرق.
يا نهار ابيض.
and we say that Islam does not forbid sex slavery.
من الذي يسمح بتنفيذ أوامره؟
Okay, if somebody says that Islam does not permit it, who is going to uh, apply this rule.
لا 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 يا سيدي. اولا الاسلام لم يمنع. الاسلام منع. اسمعيني الله يخليك اسمعيني.
Okay, now Sheikh Jamal wants to come in. I mean, Mabruk wants to come in.
وقال وفتح ابواب التحرير لاقصى
بعد اذن يا مولانا، بعد اذن حضرتك، في سوره في القران الكريم بلغه الذين علمونا الادب مع كتاب الله، ما نقولش قصيره ولكن نقول يعني مع عدد اياتها صغيره محدود، لكن كل ايه من كتاب ربنا عظيم. ربنا بيقول فيها لا اقسم بهذا البلد وانت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما، بيقول فلا اقتحم العقبه على الانسان اللي ما عندوش دين، وما ادراك ما العقبه فك رقبه او اطعام في يوم ذي مسغبه يتيما ذا مقربه او مسكينا ذا متربه ثم كان من الذين امنوا وتواصوا بالصبر. ثم كان من الذين امنوا، زي انا قلت قبل الشيخ ما يتكلم قلت لك خلينا انا وانت في البيت وانت اختي وانا بشرح لك الكلام ده، بفهمك الاسلام وبنتكلم ببساطه وربنا يكرمك انت بالجنه الحريه اهوت وحاجه جميله كويسه.
Okay, he's talking a bunch of stuff really fast. Egyptians talk very fast. It was kind of hard to pick everything he's saying, but he's saying now, say that you're my sister and I want to teach you Islam, and I want you to get to heaven. I want you to make it to heaven.
الاسلام بيقول كان من الذين امنوا ان يفكوا الرقاب، انما الانسان اللي ما عندوش دين بيسعى الى اذلال الرقاب. معنى كده لما ربنا يقول ثم كان من الذين امنوا، اول حاجه فك رقبه.
It says some people, when they became believers in Islam, they removed their slave chains off their necks.
الرقبه دي تفك ازاي؟ معناها ان المسلم مطلوب جهاده الاولاني، اول حاجه قبل الاكل وقبل المساكين وقبل اليتامى، قبل ما يدون البطانيه، شوف الرقبه الرقيقه.
That means that with the Muslim, the number one thing that before you eat food and drink and before other obligations, it's to free slaves.
يحررها
Set her free.
يبتغي وفي الرقاب ربنا.
احنا مش مختلفين.
لا معلش ما لا.
And she says we didn't even talk about this. No, she's saying we have no disagreement about this.
عنان بلا عنان.
She says we haven't even raised the subject.
يعني انا قصدي اقول لحضرتك
مكارم الاخلاق الموجوده.
لا مكارم الاخلاق مين؟
مش مكارم السبت ابدا.
يا ستي ده نص
ولا
يطلع من بق شيخ ان في ايه منسوخه بالقران.
لا ازاي؟ معاذ الله.
انا عايزه اسالك.
اتفضل.
Okay, she says I want to ask you something.
ما ملكت ايمانكم.
About the possessions of the right hand. They keep going off on some other planet. She keeps bringing it back.
موجوده النهارده.
Does it exist today?
يا دكتور مبروك جاوبني.
Answer me, Dr. Mabruk.
ذلك أدنى ألا تعولوا. إن شاء الله ربنا يدينا العمر والعيش لما نشوف المسلمين عنده زوجة واحدة وعنده 5 6 7 8 9 دول خارجين عن العدد الشرعي.
يعني الكلام ده ممكن.
He says, I hope that a man can have a wife and 9, 10 slave girls. And she says, is this possible?
ما يسعش نجاوبها وكده هيبقى تسفيه لحياة خير الخلق.
حضرتك متضايق من إثارة الموضوع.
She said to him, you are uptight because of this subject.
أكتر من كده.
أنا عندي 6000 آية، تلاقي آية مني.
He's saying to her, he says, listen, the Quran has more than 6,000 verses. And you went and just picked this one verse.
تناقشيها في ساعة وتعملوها حلقة الموضوع.
And you did a whole episode about this. There's 6,000 verses in the Quran. You went and got this one verse and you want to do a whole episode about it?
دكتور أنت تعلم إن في أحد المبشرين.
Okay, now she's talking about Father Zechariah. Okay, she says, Doctor, she says, you know that there's one of the preachers
في أحد القنوات
on one of the channels.
فتح الموضوع ده أكتر من 20 مرة.
He has opened this subject more than 20 times on his station. That's talking about Father Zechariah.
ولا واحد منكم تصدى لي.
And not one of you have responded to him.
لا دكتور ده موضوع آخر بقى. لا
حضرتك مثل هؤلاء الناس لا يرد عليهم.
What does he said? He says, those kind of people, you're not supposed to respond to them. He's talking about Father Zechariah. He says, people like that, you're not supposed to respond to them.
لا يرد عليهم.
She says, You don't respond to them?
ولا
هم اللي
يتعبروا
يرد عليهم.
ولا انا ولا
And then she says, well, then who's going to respond to them?
انا برد عليهم
Do you want me to answer it? You want me to respond to him?
ولا انت ولا تعبري خالص
ولا
And she says, not you or anybody.
ولا حاجه هو كل
ولادنا
لا لا لا
بيرتدوا.
ولاد
She says, our children are listening to him.
ازاي بقى؟
اسمعي حضرتك ابنك وابني لما بطنه بتوجعه بيروح لدكتور ما بيروحش
He says, when your son or my son has a stomach ache, we take him to the doctor, not to the mechanic.
الميكانيك اللي يسمع قسيس بيتكلم عن الاسلام يستاهل اللي يجراله
Whoever listens to Father Zechariah to learn Islam from him, they deserve what they get.
واحنا
احنا
واحنا
بنتعامل مع
مسؤول عن كل اللي
واقع.
بيسمع
He says, we deal with reality.
احنا بنتعامل مع
لا لا
واقع.
لا هذا الكلام
بيسمعوه
مرفوض
She says, they are listening to him
100%.
والكلام
أنا
بيؤدي
أسمعه.
لمشاكل انت حضرتك تعلمها كويس.
انا اسمع
and you know this is creating problems and you know about it.
واسمع عنه واللي بيقوله واتنزه عن ان ارد واديله مشروعيه ولازم اتجاهله هو واللي مشغلينه
You know, we have to ignore him and the people that work with him. We have to ignore them.
واللي فاتحين له القناه لازم الناس تبقى فاهمه كده
People need to understand this.
فاهمين ان الازهر مقصر
يا
انه ما
شيخ
بيردش على
جمال.
زكريا
You think that you are saying that Al Azhar University is less because they don't respond to Zechariah Butros?
يا شيخ
لا.
جمال، بعد
لا لا
اذنك
ده كلام
انا هكلمك انت كوالد ليا يعني.
She says, Sheikh Jamal, I'm talking to you as if you're my father.
احنا لما اقول لك انا بنتك ومحتاجه مساعدتك
If I'm saying to you, I'm your daughter and I need your help,
وانت راجل من علماء المسلمين
and you are one of the Islamic scholars,
لازم تقنعني في عصر العولمه
you have to convince me in the age of technology
والانترنت
and time of internet and television,
والشات والحاجات
chatting.
دي كلها فلازم ارد ولازم يرد عقلي ولازم
You have to answer me. You have to answer me intellectually.
نحترم عقل الناس وبدون انفعال.
عندنا شاعر من زمان كده قال في موضع زي ده وانا بعتبر كلامه دينا قبل ان يكون شعر لو ان كل كلب عوى القمته حجرا لاصبح الصخر دينارا مش كل واحد يتكلم ارد عليه
And he said now, he says, if you throw rocks at every dog that barks, there's not going to be enough rocks.
انا حضرتك
ده لو
لما
شتيمه
لا لا لا
She said, this is not an insult.
انما
ولا
لو
ولا
احنا
ولا
بنقضي
الانتقاد ولا لما
نقضي يا
بقول
شيخ
لحضرتك
جمال.
هل بوش لما وقف وقال
مش ربنا
المسلمين
قال
الفاشيست
وجادلهم
انا مكلف ارد عليه
She's telling him a verse of the Quran. And the verse of the Quran says, argue with them with what is better.
شيخ جمال
يتفلق
مش ربنا سبحانه وتعالى قال وجادلهم بالتي هي احسن
لما
And she's asking him, she said, didn't Allah say in the Quran, debate them or argue with them with what is better?
حضرتك يتكلموا
يعني يا
هم
جماعه انا دلوقتي قدام مني
انت بتقري نص
اثنين
الايه كده
بقول علماء الازهر
لا لا
ومطالبين بانهم يفندوا هذه
مش
الدعوه
كل اللي يتكلموا فيه
ان
الناس
الاسلام بيشجع على الرق
شوف حضرتك
والصحابه كانوا بيتمتعوا بمملكه ايمانهم.
She's saying, listen to me, Sheikh. Listen, people are watching on television. I have two of the most respected sheikhs of Al Azhar University here, and I'm trying to get an answer from them about the fact, does Islam encourage sex slavery? And that the companions of Muhammad used to have sex with their slave girls.
نرد نقول ايه؟
ايوه
Well, if someone asks me about that, what should I say to them?
حافظ اللي مش عاجبه يتفلق سؤال صغير
He says, and whoever it doesn't please him, let him go beat his head on the wall.
انت مؤمنه ان القران ده كلام ربنا
Okay, Sheikh. Okay, now this is Sheikh Mabruk. He's saying to her now, he says, do you believe the Quran is the words of our Lord?
ولا زيه زي الاحاديث فيه ده ضعيف وده مردود
Or do you think it's like the hadith, that some of it's da'if, some of it's strong, and some of it sahih, and some of it's authentic, and some of it's weak?
الموضوع؟
الاسئله
لا اما تيجي تقريها
أنا بسمة واحدة مؤمنة.
انا
She says, I, Basma Wahba, I am a believer. I'm a Muslim believer.
بسال مش بسمه وهبه، انا
إنما
بسال استاذه بسمه كاني بسال اي واحده من المشاهدين. هسالها بس سؤال بالراحه خالص خالص.
Okay, I'm asking you like I'm asking all of the viewers. Very simple question. Simple.
انا هقول يا جماعه
مؤمنين.
اوكي لحظه.
And she says, we're all believers.
لا مش كده، ما اقصدش مؤمنين بقى، احنا بنناقش مناقشه موضوعيه دلوقتي. يعني ايه مناقشه موضوعيه؟ يعني اقول للناس انت مؤمن بان القران ده كلام الله؟
What I'm saying is, do you believe that the Quran is the words of Allah?
يقول لي ايوه.
Say yes.
مفيش فيه تحريف؟
There's no corruption in it?
هيقول لي ايه الحجه؟
I'm going to say yes.
إنا نحن نزلنا الذكر وإنا له لحافظون.
He just did the chanting for Surah 15, verse 9, which is, we sent down the reminder and we preserve it.
عظيم. الدنيا كلها مطمئنه ده كلام ربنا؟
Is the whole world convinced about the words of the Lord?
طب اقرا كده في سوره النساء. يبقى وإن خفتم ألا تقسطوا في اليتامى فانكحوا ما طاب لكم من النساء مثنى وثلاث.
And the Quran says in chapter 4, verse 3, take women as you please, 2 and 3 and 4, and whatever your right hand possesses, and have sex with them.
ورباع. فإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة أو ما ملكت.
And if you are not able to be fair with all of them, or what your right hand possesses,
أيمانكم. ألغيها.
what do I do? Do I erase those words?
يعني هعمل لها إيه دلوقتي؟
What do you want me to do with them? What do you want me to do with those words?
أشطبها بأستيكة.
You want me to take a plastic eraser and just erase it?
هل المطلوب إن عشان أنا أبقى دين جميل ودافع عنه هعمل إيه في القرآن؟
Bless you, babe. He's saying, what should I do? Because I want to make Islam a pretty religion? What do I do with the religion?
وده السؤال الأولاني.
This is the first question.
يعني إحنا لو بنجيب حديث ضعيف.
مؤمنة أرد إزاي؟
She's saying, I am already a believer. How do I respond?
هو كده.
أرد إزاي؟
How do I respond?
أنا مش متهم عشان
يا شيخ مبروك.
Sheikh Mabruk.
أنا ديني كلام ربنا بيقول أو ما ملكت أيمانكم. بيقول في أول المؤمنون قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون إلى أن قال والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا.
I can't believe he did that, but he says he's reciting Quran, and now he says الذين حافظون فروجهم, which means that it's the same phrase that they use when they talk about Mary, the mother of Jesus, that حافظ فروج, meaning that she guards her sex organ, and he's quoting that in front of her right now.
على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت
Except, okay, this is talking about the men actually, okay, and that they guard their private parts except with their wives and those sex slaves that they own. This is in the Quran. He's reciting it right now to her.
فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون. طيب أنا بقى أرد أقول إيه؟ أقول هذا دين.
I say, this is my religion.
هذا دين.
This is my religion.
وهذا ديني. مش أنا بقول ألو بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
يعني باختصار ما عندكمش رد.
And then she says, okay, let's just, in summary, what you're saying is you don't have an answer. She says that, okay, in all, so this is the answer that you have, is that you don't have an answer. That's the final solution here. You don't have an answer.
ده عندنا دنيا.
هو الدين بتاعنا كده.
يا فندم
واللي مش عاجبه يتسال.
ده اللي بيتكلم الكلام ده عايزنا.
اذا كنت حضرتك
اللي بيتكلم الكلام ده حضرتك عايز
انا اسف اني قبلت دعوه.
الناس عايزه.
Okay, And now the other sheikh says, if I knew that this was the condition, I wouldn't have come to your program. And then she's saying,
تفهم القرآن.
people want to understand the Quran.
مش
الله يفتح عليكي، الله يفتح عليكي.
أولا يعني
انا ارجوكي بقى هاخد كيو زي ما بيقولوا اهل الاعلام والفنانين منك، من كلمه الناس عايزه تفهم القران.
He says, I want to say something about this. You said people want to understand the Quran.
ربنا يرضى عنك يا شيخ، قولي
She's laughing.
امين. فاول القران الحمد لله رب العالمين. هل علمنا الناس الحمد؟ وما معنى الحمد؟ لا جواز ولا طلاق ولا بتاع الاسلام.
Okay, he says religion is so good, it teaches us to be thankful and
جماله كذا.
it's beautiful.
وهنفضل نحمد ربنا ولا
To stay in the grace of our Lord
نعتديش على حد.
and not attack anybody.
لما حد يعتدي علينا،
As long as nobody attacks us.
اللي هيعتدي علينا ده هيحصل حرب بيننا.
If somebody attacks us, there's going to be a hard war.
نزل فينا ملك اليمين، فاحنا عايزين نبين.
And then the possessions of the right hand came down upon us. You guys, I think he's talking about American women soldiers.
الاسلام انه دين العلم مش دين الجنس.
This is a religion of science, not a religion of sex.
بالنسبة لآيات الرق وما ملكت أيمانكم وخلافها، هذه الآيات الكريمة موجودة شرعا إنما ليست موجودة واقعا. هذا كلام موافق عليه.
Okay, now she's saying, okay, so all the verses in the Quran about sex slaves, about slavery, they exist in the law, Islamic law, but they don't exist in reality. Is that right? Is that correct?
أم غير موافق عليه.
هو ليست هناك أسواق رقيق ولا يسمح الدولة الإسلامية بإنشاء سوق رقيق. أيوة ده كلام صح.
And then he says, yes, the Islamic nation does not allow slavery. Yes, the Islamic nation does not allow slavery.
ده كلام حلو بقى.
Yeah, this is scientific.
ده كلام يعوز السماحة.
عظيم.
This is permissible words.
اللي فات ده يعوز الخلاف.
يبقى دلوقتي إذا قام أي واحد بمحاولة تملك ما ملكت أيمانكم يبقى مخالف لنظام الدولة، وبالتالي التعامل الجنسي بين الطرفين حرام ويعتبر زنا.
And she's saying, so if a man has a woman and he considers her like a slave, the slave, possession of the right hand, and he had sex with her, then that is considered fornication.
هل هذا صحيح؟
Is that right?
يتعامل مع مين؟ مفيش حد المسلم مش الدنيا مش سايبه قدامه كده.
And he says, he's dealing with who? A Muslim, he's not just leaving the whole world. Don't ask me what that means.
أي إنسان بيعتدي على أي إنسان آخر مجرم في الإسلام قبل.
He's saying any person who attacks another person in Islam, that person is considered. And then she stops and says, dude, that's not what I'm talking about.
هيخطفها وعايز يعاشرها أو يكره، ده أمر غير وارد. ده أمر غير وارد. لكن إذا جاءت تحارب ووقعت هي وأبوها.
But if it came down to war and she fell down, you know, she came down. I think they're thinking about parachuting of American soldiers coming down. I don't know. But then her and her father. And who's after her? They will be possessions of the right hand. These words are said not because Islam wants this. Islam does not want this. It's so that when they hear it, they'll be afraid. They'll be afraid to go to Iraq. And then he says, I want to say something really devastating for you too. Something devastating.
تفهم في بعض اسئله حضرتك ان الراجل بهيص يعني. ما في بصلب القران ان الست لها ملك يمين مثلا.
He says, I want to tell you something. According to the Quran, a woman can also have possessions of the right hand. And look at the sheikh says, yeah.
ها
ما هو ده السؤال اللي
لا
انا
لحظه
كنت
واحده
لسه عايزه اساله لك
يبقى
دلوقتي.
وما ملكت ايمانهن.
ايوه
بس
So women can have sex slaves too.
انها شريفه وعفيفه ومحترمه
But he says, but women are very pure and innocent and clean. So they don't want this.
وعدم خلطه الانساب وقله الادب.
And it's immoral and against the human nature.
فالموضوع ده ممنوع، لكن تبيعه وبيع
Well, this thing is forbidden.
ابوه. اذا كانت تملكه وتملك ابوه تبيعه وتعتقه لوجه الله تعالى وتعتق رقبه لا اله الا الله، لكن هي الفروج محفوظه.
The sex organs are preserved.
يعني الرجل بيتجوز 4، فالمساله دي
A man, he can marry 4.
مش مشكله، وبيتجوز
Not a problem.
4 امتى؟
طيب
ابو حنيفه الله يرحمه على فكره، بمناسبه الائمه احنا ساعات بنجني عليهم ونقول قبل الائمه ما يتولدوا وقبل بتاعه الدين ما يعرفش المذهبيه القوي قوي دي، الدين مستقيم وخط واحد وحاجات جميله، لكن له كلمه قوي جميله جدا معتبر، يقول لك اللي ما يقدرش يعمل مع واحده حرام ان هو يتجوز 2 او يتجوز 3.
But the Quran is so beautiful because it says that the man who cannot take care of one wife, how is he going to be able to take care of 2 or 3 or 4? So he's not allowed to marry 2 or 3 or 4, you know. And then what happened, you guys, this very important point right here, is that the older sheikh, the mufti, the pope, he got up and walked out. He just got up and walked out.
الذي لا يقدر على العدل مع واحده حرام ان هو يتجوز 2.
So if he can't be fair with one, it's forbidden for him to marry 2.
العدل مع واحده.
He has to be fair with one.
بقول لك واللي ما يقدرش يعدل مع الواحده ما يتجوزهاش اصلا من حيث الاصل.
And if he can't be fair with 4, then he shouldn't marry more than 1.
هل تعتقد بصراحه كده
أيوة.
احنا فتحنا الموضوع ده ليه؟
Now you see the other sheikh left, you guys. He just walked out. So now she's asking this first guy, saying, why do you think we opened up this subject?
اللي هو موضوع ملك اليمين.
And he says, because of the subject of the right possessions of the right hand.
احنا ليه فيما اتصور
يعني هجوما على الاسلام ام دفاعا عن الاسلام؟
She's asking him, is it because we're attacking Islam or because we want to defend Islam?
لا انا اتصور وموقن من جوايا ومطمئن لانه دفاع عن الاسلام بلا شك. انا اعرف نيه حضرتك واعرف انك بتمثلي اراء هي اساسا في الشارع وان ممكن وده نجاح.
He's saying, no, you are just representing opinions that are in the street.
جميل.
ان في ناس ممكن لو مكانك هيسالوك.
Maybe there's people who are asking these questions.
الكلام ده بتوفري على مليون مشاهد اسئله ابتدت في خطوه. ده بقول لك
Maybe there's a million viewers who have this question in their minds.
الله يكرمك، ايوه كان في ذهني كده، مش مشكله ابدا.
طيب هل من المناسب مواجهه المشكله ام
لا.
He says, is it better that we confront this issue and we deal with it, or should we just ignore it? And he's saying, no.
لا نواجه، مش ما هو لما تظهر مشكله احنا بنواجهها.
He's saying, no, we must face it.
يعني
لما تظهر مشكله
مع التصرف اللي عمله فضيله العلامه الشيخ جمال قطب انه انسحب من الحلقه.
He says, what do you think about what Sheikh Jamal just did? That he just got up and left in the middle of this episode.
لان احنا بنناقش فيها مشكله من مشاكل الدين.
After 10 minutes, you guys, he came back.
فضيلة الشيخ رجع لنا تاني مرة أخرى، يعني لأنه إحنا ما نعرفش نعمل أي حاجة من غير علمائنا.
She's saying we don't know how to do anything without our scholars.
اللي علمونا.
They taught us.
وربونا.
They raised us.
وأدبونا.
They disciplined us.
وربنا يخليهم لينا يا رب. يعني إحنا دلوقتي هنكمل الأسئلة اللي بنسألها.
We're going to continue the questions that we have been asking.
إحنا طرح هذه القضايا لصالح الأمة أم ضد الأمة؟
لا طرح
خاصة
ابتداء
إذا بوجهت بها الأمة.
لا ابتداء يبقى والله العظيم انا اصحى من النوم اتوضى واروح اختم خطبه الجمعه اقول الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Okay. Now, you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward it now to the end because I want to show you one thing she says at the end. And they just go round and round. They say absolutely nothing. And it's similar sometimes listening to, like, when Christian Prince is talking to a Muslim, and it just goes round and round and round sometimes because the Muslim doesn't want to answer. This kind of what this turned into. But I'll just show you the end of it now.
المحافظه على فروج المسلمين وازاي الميثاق الغليظ يتاخد وايه تاديب المراه والزوجه والفراش، الكلام الفارغ اللي بنسمعه من غير لا ثقافه ولا وعي ولا فكر ولا بتاع خطير جدا.
هقول لحضرتك دكتور مبروك.
يبقى
انا يعني ليا بس تعليق.
He says, I just have a comment.
اختم بيه الحلقه.
I will end this episode.
لانه طبعا بعد ما قدرنا الحوار.
Says after we have ventured into this discussion,
أنا شايفة إنه خد أبعاد ما كانتش محسوبة.
We went into dimensions that we did not consider that we were going to enter into.
بالنسبة لنا كلنا الخلاصة نقول يا جماعة.
The end, everybody, we just have to say,
تفتحوش المواضيع اللي عاوزة كلام كتير لأن إحنا مش مستعدين ليها وبالتالي.
She says, people, do not ask questions about things that require lots of words because we are not ready to answer.
ربنا يتولانا ويتولاكم. وهختم الحلقة بإني أعكس المقدمة
And I'm going to end this episode the opposite of how I started it.
إحنا قلنا يلا نسأل.
We said at the beginning, let's ask about these issues.
والسؤال مش هيفيد.
But now we see the asking a question has no benefit.
ونواجه العلماء والكل يبقى مش سعيد. متشكرين لعلمائنا ونرجو منكم أن تكون هذه الحلقة جرس إنذار.
She says, and I hope that this episode will be a warning alarm
لما تتعرض له الدعوة الإسلامية اليوم.
That whoever has issues and questions about Islamic da'wah.
والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So essentially in front of them, she said, we came at the beginning, we said we're going to ask our sheikhs. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have answers. Don't ask questions. And you guys, I just want to know something that happened with her after this episode is she took off the hijab. She no longer wore the hijab after this. So it was devastating in all of Egypt. It was devastating in all of Egypt, the whole Arab world. So, yeah. So anyway, that is one of the best interviews. Emotional damage indeed. I'm sure Rob Christian has seen this. So yeah, so it was a very popular. In fact, Father Zechariah uses that one part where she talks about Father Zechariah, and he says, "You're not supposed to talk to people like that." Is El Azhar less because they don't respond to Father Zechariah? I think this interview was about 15 years ago. I think it was about 15 years ago on some little Egyptian satellite television station. Basma was very popular. I think she moved to Europe or something. I don't know what happened. But I do know that she took off the hijab after this interview. She said, dude, you guys, this was so disappointing. And so anyway, but it was amazing. She asked questions like, wow, so so yeah, so that I just kind of wanted to, we've been on for almost 2 hours. If I was to go on the rest of it, but I kind of feel like you got the gist of this, the gist of the of this. And what's so awesome is that um, is that she had the boldness to be able to confront these guys. And I don't watch Al Jazeera all the time. I used to watch it, the English Al Jazeera. But there's many times on those Al Jazeera channels where you have those reporters with the hijab and everything, and they get these two arrogant sheikhs and stuff. And I tell you what, they rip into them, man. They ask them really good questions sometimes, you know. But anyway, so for me, one reason why I enjoy this so much is just seeing that this conversation is not just going on among us. This conversation is not just going on among us. It's all over the world. Muslims are asking these questions, and these questions are leading them to leave Islam. So praise be to God. Even on the secular media, this was secular media, and she embarrassed these guys so beautifully, So, all right, yeah, maybe we could do part 2 tomorrow. If we do part 2 tomorrow, I think it's going to be another interview, okay? Because there's some doozies, man. Like the one I have one where a guy says, "Oh, hey, you guys, maybe I'll show you the videos tomorrow." But this guy who is a very respected newscaster in the Middle East, and so I won't ruin it for you and tell you what it's about, but it's a doozy. So, all right, you guys. Well, I don't know. I think we lost some of our friends here, because of the Arabic and stuff like that. But either case, appreciate you guys being with us. Appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight. Any Muslims who want to come on, I'll put the invite here. If there's any Muslims who would like to come on, or ex-Muslims, any, just in case. And yeah, she did. Yeah, at the end of this, she took off the hijab. She stopped wearing the hijab because of this interview. So I wonder how many others did too. So, all right, you guys. Well, if no one comes on, we'll just say, if you haven't done it, do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. يسوع ساعدني. يسوع سامحني. يسوع ادخل قلبي. He loves you. We love you. And have a wonderful night.
If you have ever wondered why dull apologists lie so much, it's because on a rare occasion that they tell the truth. This happens.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense.
You're going to that the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say.